Latin America. Land of lost civilizations. Land of rainforests. Land of volcanoes and millenary traditions. The sun illuminates pyramids covered by jungle. Endless waterfalls cascade from dizzying heights. Colonial cities pulse to the rhythm of traditional dances. Welcome to Latin America. Welcome to a continent suspended between two oceans. Latin America comprises all American countries colonized by Spain, Portugal, and France, starting from Mexico and ending with Argentina. It was born from the fusion between pre-Columbian peoples like the Maya, Aztecs, and Incas, with European conquistadors and African populations who arrived during the slave trade. This mixing has created hybrid societies united by Catholic faith and languages derived from Latin, which today host over 650 million inhabitants, distributed across 33 independent countries. An immense territory that encompasses every type of climate and landscape. From Mexican deserts to Amazonian forests, from Patagonian glaciers to Andean highlands. Each nation safeguards unique natural wonders, shaped by millennia of geological and cultural history. And now, let's embark on a journey to discover the most incredible and iconic places of this region. Atacama Desert. In the heart of northern Chile extends the most arid desert on the planet. Here there are some weather stations that have never recorded a drop of rain. Salt plains shine under the Andean sun, creating mirages on the horizon, while smoking geysers erupt boiling steam at over 13,123 feet, or 4,000 meters of altitude. The night transforms this landscape into a natural observatory, with astronomers from all over the world coming to study stars invisible elsewhere. Underground minerals instead tint the lagoon's shocking pink and emerald green, attracting flocks of flamingos who migrate through valleys that seem Martian. Galapagos Islands. "600 kilometers, or 373 miles off the coast of Ecuador, 13 volcanic islands float on the ocean like a natural laboratory under the open sky. Giant tortoises walk slowly among cacti tall as trees, while marine iguanas dive into icy waters to graze algae on rocky seabeds. Each island of this archipelago has developed its own species. There are finches with different beaks, cormorants that have lost the ability to fly, sea lions that play with tourists. Darwin observed here that diversity that would revolutionize modern biology, discovering how life adapts and transforms. Patagonia. At the southern extremity of the continent, incessant winds shape infinite steppes where guanacos run free under immense skies. Glaciers from the Andes Cordillera descend to the sea, creating deep fjords and cobalt blue icebergs that float toward the ocean. The granite towers of Torres del Paine, instead, rise like natural cathedrals, while condors glide above valleys where traditional sheep farming is still practiced. Here, silence has a particular quality and is interrupted only by wind that recalls stories of explorers and gauchos who challenged this borderland. Machu Picchu. At 7,874 feet, or 2,400 meters of altitude, agricultural terraces cling to vertiginous slopes in the Peruvian Andes, witnessing Inca engineering that challenged and conquered gravity. This citadel remained hidden for 4 centuries in the misty forest until it was brought to world light in 1911. Archaeologists still continue today to decipher how the Incas transported perfectly fitted granite blocks without using mortar or wheels. The temples are also astronomically aligned, and after each dawn, the mist slowly dissolves, revealing marvelous panoramas that get lost among the peaks. Tatacoa Desert. A red and gray clay desert extends in Colombia's heart, created by the eastern Cordillera shadow of the Andes, which blocks clouds and prevents precipitation. Cacti and succulent plants grow in valleys carved by erosion, where rivers once flowed that fed tropical forests millions of years ago. Erosion has carved labyrinths of canyons and clay pinnacles that from above look like the wrinkles of a giant, creating a true lunar landscape in the heart of South America. Marine fossils also emerge from desert terrain, remembering that this region was covered by ocean before the Andes rose. Salar de Uyuni. At 11,811 feet, or 3,600 meters of altitude, the largest salt flat on the planet extends for over 10,000 square kilometers, or 3,861 square miles, in the Bolivian highlands. During the dry season, salt crystals form geometric polygons that create a white landscape without visible reference points on the horizon. With the arrival of rains, however, a thin film of water transforms the salar into a perfect mirror that reflects the Bolivian sky. Under this salt crust hides one of the world's largest lithium reserves, which is the element that powers the batteries of the technological future. Rio de Janeiro. Six million people live between granite mountains and Atlantic Ocean, creating one of the most scenic cities in the world. Christ the Redeemer watches from atop Corcovado, over a metropolis that climbs the hills, and where the rhythms of samba and bossa nova are born. The beaches of Copacabana and Ipanema instead become natural stages where Brazilians of every social class meet to warm themselves under the same tropical sun. During Carnival, millions of people invade the streets, transforming Rio into an open-air theater that pulses to the rhythm of samba schools. Cartagena. 16th-century Spanish colonial walls still surround today the historic center of this Caribbean city, facing the sea. Colored wooden balconies overlook stone streets, animated by the coming and going of tourists. Behind the historic center rises the modern skyline of Boca Grande, with skyscrapers and luxury hotels that contrast with the colonial architecture. The historic walls serve as a visual boundary between two eras, separating ancient charm from the city's contemporary ambitions. Amazon rainforest. A green mantle crosses 9 South American countries, pumping oxygen into Earth's atmosphere through 6 million square kilometers of vegetation, or 2.3 million square miles. The Amazon River flows for over 6,000 kilometers, or 3,728 miles, transporting sediments from the Andes to the Atlantic, while the canopy hides stratified ecosystems, which reach up to 197 feet or 60 meters in height. In the forest depths live indigenous peoples who know medicinal properties of plants still unknown to Western science. Each hectare hosts more tree species than those present in entire continents, with jaguars hunting and thousands of birds moving among the trees, creating a unique mix of sounds in the world. Iguazu Falls. Over 200 waterfalls precipitate in the subtropical forest at the border between Argentina and Brazil, creating a roar, audible from kilometers away. The Iguazu River divides on a front of almost 3 kilometers, or 1.86 miles, generating permanent mist that keeps the surrounding forest lush. The Devil's Throat, which is the most scenic point, swallows 1,800 cubic meters, or 63,566 cubic feet, of water per second, while rainbows are constantly created in the haze created by the falls. Hummingbirds and tropical butterflies fly among suspended walkways that allow visitors to walk above torrents headed toward the precipice. Old Havana. Five centuries of history accumulate among the cobblestone streets of the Cuban capital, where Spanish colonial palaces show facades faded by time. American cars from the 50s travel the Malecón, the waterfront where habaneros, or residents, meet every evening to fish and socialize. In historic venues, couples of all ages dance salsa until dawn. In the alleyways of the historic center, instead, children play soccer, telling the true essence of the city. Colonial houses hide internal courtyards, where notes of sun and rumba resonate, which are the rhythms that conquered the world starting from this island. Chichen Itza. The Pyramid of Kukulkan dominates one of the most important Mayan cities, where astronomy and architecture fused into mathematically impeccable constructions. During equinoxes, the pyramid's shadow creates the illusion of a serpent descending along the staircase, demonstrating the incredible astronomical knowledge of the Maya. The ball court, instead, is the largest in pre-Columbian America and preserves stone rings through which the rubber ball had to pass. The observatory, called El Caracol, allowed priest astronomers to follow Venus's movements, with precision that still impresses today. Andes. The world's longest mountain range crosses 7 South American countries for over 7,000 kilometers, or 4,350 miles, from Colombia to Chile. From Pacific coast to glaciers that go beyond 19,685 feet, or 6,000 meters, the Andes create climatic barriers that isolate completely different ecosystems. Indigenous populations cultivate on agricultural terraces, growing thousands of potato varieties even at this incredible altitude. Active volcanoes continue to shape the landscape, with condors gliding above valleys, where rivers are born that feed both the Atlantic and Pacific. Tikal. Mayan pyramids rise up to 213 feet, or 65 meters, in the Petén jungle, surpassing the forest canopy that has hidden them for millennia. Tikal controlled trade routes that connected the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific Ocean, becoming one of the most powerful city-states in the Mayan world. Jaguars and monkeys inhabit a reserve where temples and palaces emerge from tropical vegetation in an area as large as Milan. There are also toucans and parrots that fill the air with calls, while mist rises from temples that once housed tens of thousands of inhabitants. Buenos Aires. "13 million porteños live in a metropolis born from late 19th century European immigration, where more than 40 different languages are spoken. Tango is born in popular neighborhoods like San Telmo and La Boca, evolving from brothel music to world cultural heritage recognized by UNESCO. The city's architecture reflects its cosmopolitan origins, with elegant French-style palaces alternating with Art Deco buildings and the characteristic colorful houses of Caminito, creating a unique urban landscape. There are also numerous parks, such as Palermo, where families and young people gather for mate, which is the social ritual of shared tea that has united generations of Argentines for centuries. Blue Hole. A perfectly circular underwater crater opens in Belize's coral reef, plunging 407 feet, or 124 meters, into the turquoise Caribbean waters. Jacques Cousteau called it one of the planet's most spectacular diving sites, after exploring it in 1971 with his ship Calypso. The Blue Hole's vertical walls preserve stalactites formed 15,000 years ago, when this was an emerged cave, before sea level rise submerged it. Gray sharks and hammerhead sharks now swim in the depths of this natural abyss, which measures 984 feet, or 300 meters, in diameter, and attracts divers from all over the world. Angel Falls. From Tepuy precipitates the world's highest waterfall, with an uninterrupted drop of 3,212 feet, or 979 meters, that pulverizes water before it can touch the ground. Jimmy Angel was an American pilot, and he discovered this waterfall in 1933 during a reconnaissance flight over the Venezuelan Gran Sabana, giving it his own name. The waterfall forms from the waters of the Carep River, which flow on the Tepuy summit, which is a tabular sandstone mountain about 2 billion years old. During the dry season, water completely evaporates before reaching the bottom, creating mist that rises from the rainforest below. Pantanal. The planet's largest floodable plain extends for 195,000 square kilometers, or 75,289 square miles, among Brazil, Bolivia, and Paraguay, hosting South America's largest concentration of wildlife. During the rainy season, rivers overflow, flooding prairies that become natural habitats for fish, reptiles, and aquatic birds. Jaguars, Yacaré caimans, and anacondas share this ecosystem, where 650 bird species live, and the world's largest population of hyacinth macaws. Local ranchers manage extensive ranches, practicing sustainable livestock farming that has coexisted with wildlife for over 3 centuries. Mexico City. "22 million people inhabit a valley located at 7,349 feet, or 2,240 meters of altitude, built over the dried lake where Tenochtitlan, the old Aztec Empire capital, stood." Mexico City arose on this valley, and precisely for this reason, the city sinks 40 centimeters, or 16 inches, per year. The cause is pumping water from underground aquifers, which creates structural problems for colonial buildings in the historic center. The Zocalo, one of the world's largest squares, hosts thousands of people daily who cross the 57,000 square meters, or 613,542 square feet, between the cathedral and National Palace. The canals of the Xochimilco neighborhood, instead, still preserve ancient Aztec waterways with colorful boats navigating among artificial islands. Fernando de Noronha. "21 volcanic islands emerge from the Atlantic Ocean 350 kilometers, or 217 miles, from the Brazilian coast, forming an ecological sanctuary where tourist access is limited to 420 people per day. The archipelago became UNESCO World Heritage in 2001 for its unique marine biodiversity, which includes tropical fish species and seabirds that nest only here. Crystal clear waters reach visibility up to 164 feet, or 50 meters deep, allowing observation of spinner dolphins that perform acrobatic jumps in protected bays. Praia do Sancho is regularly classified among the world's most beautiful beaches and is accessible only through a ladder, embedded in a crack of the volcanic cliff. Cocora Valley. Wax palms up to 197 feet, or 60 meters tall, grow isolated in Colombian Andean meadows, creating a unique landscape in the world. These palms are Colombia's national tree and can live over 200 years, growing slowly in humid valleys at 7,874 feet, or 2,400 meters of altitude. The valley is part of the Coffee Biosphere Reserve, where one of the planet's best coffees is cultivated, all in family plantations. Hummingbirds and quetzals fly among the palms, while cows graze in green meadows, surrounded by mountains covered with cloud forest. Colca Canyon. The Colca River has carved for millions of years a gorge 13,650 feet, or 4,160 meters deep, in the Peruvian Andes, creating the world's second deepest canyon. Andean condors with 3-meter wingspan glide on thermal currents that rise from the canyon depths, offering flight shows observable from accessible viewpoints. Local indigenous communities cultivate agricultural terraces built over 1,000 years ago, maintaining ancient techniques to produce quinoa and potatoes at 12,467 feet, or 3,800 meters of altitude. Moreover, small traditional villages cling to the canyon slopes, where inhabitants preserve customs and the Quechua language, which is the ancient language of the Incas. Lake Titicaca. The world's highest navigable lake is located at 12,507 feet, or 3,812 meters, between Peru and Bolivia, extending for 8,300 square kilometers, or 3,205 square miles in the Andes. The Uros communities live on floating islands, built entirely with marsh reeds, and it's a tradition they've maintained for over 500 years. With these reeds, they also build boats that still cross today the lake waters, following old trade routes. The Island of the Sun instead hosts ruins that, according to Inca mythology, were the birthplace of the sun god, while local fishermen catch trout in the lake's icy waters. San Miguel de Allende. A colonial city of 70,000 inhabitants climbs the hills of the Mexican Bajío, preserving 16th century architectures practically intact. The parroquia of San Miguel dominates the historic center, with its pink Gothic towers built by a local mason who was inspired by European postcards. American and European artists have transformed this city into a cultural center where art galleries and shops coexist with traditional Mexican markets. Colorful colonial houses also host artisan workshops where ceramics, textiles, and wrought iron objects are produced. Valparaiso. A port city climbs 45 hills facing the Pacific Ocean, connected by century-old funiculars that still transport people today. House walls are covered with murals that tell Chile's social history, transforming Valparaiso into an open-air art gallery. The port instead receives container ships from Asia, colored houses descending toward the sea host fresh fish restaurants and small taverns where sailors stop after months of navigation. Lençóis Maranhenses. White sand dunes alternate with crystal-clear freshwater lagoons in a coastal desert of 1,500 square kilometers, or 579 square miles in northern Brazil. During the rainy season, water accumulates between dunes, creating thousands of temporary lagoons, where fish carried by floods swim. The constant wind continuously shapes the dunes, moving them up to 20 meters per year and constantly changing the geography of this aquatic desert. Local fishing communities live in coastal villages, collecting seafood and practicing sustainable tourism in this unique national park. Lake Atitlan. Three volcanoes reflect in the waters of a lake formed 84,000 years ago in a volcanic caldera in Guatemala's heart. Twelve Mayan villages surround the lake shores, each specialized in different artisan traditions, passed down through generations. Fishermen sail the lake with their traditional boats, catching fish in these waters over 984 feet, or 300 meters deep. The water temperature, moreover, remains constant at 20 degrees throughout the year, thanks to underwater thermal waters that feed hot springs along the shores. Easter Island. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, 3,700 kilometers, or 2,299 miles from the Chilean coast, 887 Moai statues observe the horizon from a volcanic island. The Rapa Nui population carved these statues between 1250 and 1500, using volcanic stone extracted from the Rano, Raraku volcanic crater quarries. The world's most isolated island hosts only 6,000 inhabitants who keep Polynesian traditions alive through dances, music, and annual festivals. Archaeologists continue discovering new moai buried by volcanic soil, while still wondering how these statues were transported at that time. Vinicunca. Also called Rainbow Mountain, it's located at 17,061 feet, or 5,200 meters of altitude in the Peruvian Andes, and shows colored mineral layers deposited over millions of years. Iron, sulfur, and other mineral sediments create red, yellow, green, and purple stripes, visible only since glaciers retreated in recent decades. Alpacas and vicuñas graze on the mountain slopes, while Quechua communities guide treks, carrying oxygen for visitors unaccustomed to altitude. The path to reach Vinicunca is nonetheless not easy, and crosses valleys where native potatoes still grow, and there's very rarefied air, making each step a physical challenge. Monteverde. A cloud forest extends on Costa Rica's mountains, wrapped in clouds that keep this unique ecosystem humid. Suspended bridges allow walking among treetops, where quetzals, toucans, and over 400 tropical bird species live. American Quakers, who are members of a Christian religious movement, founded this community in the 1950s, developing an ecotourism model that protects 26,000 hectares, or 64,247 acres, of primary forest. Orchids, bromeliads, and giant ferns grow on tree trunks, creating vertical gardens rich with colorful frogs that hide in humidity. Ushuaia. The world's southernmost city faces the Beagle Channel, surrounded by snow-capped mountains and Antarctic beech forests. "50,000 inhabitants live in this gateway to Antarctica, where icebreaker ships depart toward the White Continent during austral summer. Tierra del Fuego National Park protects the subantarctic forests, where hiking trails wind through glacial lakes and peat bogs, offering incredible views. The End of the World Lighthouse, instead, is an attraction in itself and marks the end of Patagonia and the beginning of Antarctic waters. Palenque. Mayan temples emerge from Chiapas jungle, where monkeys fill dawn with their calls that can be heard kilometers away. The site's highest pyramid, with its 82 feet, or 25 meters, guards the tomb of Tikal the Great, ruler who reigned for 68 years and transformed Palenque into a regional power. Natural waterfalls flow through ruins, while toucans and parrots fly among pyramids, now covered by rich tropical vegetation. Archaeologists have deciphered only a small part of hieroglyphs present here, and they seem to tell the story of the city, founded in the 3rd century after Christ. Laguna Colorada. A crimson-red salt lake extends in the Bolivian highlands, colored by algae and plankton, that resist even alkaline waters. Pink flamingos feed on these microorganisms, while walking in the lagoon's shallow waters, surrounded by snow-capped volcanoes. White mineral salt formations emerge from red waters, creating incredible chromatic contrasts in a landscape that seems to belong to another planet. Nighttime temperatures often drop below freezing, even in summer, while geysers and hot springs witness underground volcanic activity. Caño Cristales. The world's most colorful river flows in Sierra de la Macarena, with red, yellow, and green aquatic plants that tint transparent water. Macarenia clavigera is the name of these plants, and changes color from June to November, transforming the riverbed into a liquid rainbow, 100 kilometers or 62 miles long. Waterfalls, natural pools, and rapids follow one another in a national park that was closed for decades due to Colombian armed conflict. In surrounding forests, there are jaguars and pumas that hunt freely and surround this ecosystem, protected since 2009. San Blas Archipelago. "365 coral islands off Panama's Caribbean coast are inhabited by the Guna, an indigenous people who have autonomously governed this territory since 1925. White sand beaches are accessible only with village chiefs' permission, who strictly control tourism to preserve their traditional lifestyle. Coconut palms grow on islands so small that some host only one family, while crystal clear waters hide intact coral reefs. The Guna still practice bartering and try to protect their traditions from modern world changes. Kilotoa. A turquoise lake fills an extinct volcano's caldera at 12,841 feet, or 3,914 meters of altitude in the Ecuadorian Andes, formed 800 years ago during an eruption. Indigenous communities live on crater edges, cultivating potatoes and quinoa on fertile volcanic terrain at temperatures that drop below freezing. A path descends along crater walls, allowing reach of lake shores, while kayaks cross waters that are fed only by rain and snow. Above the caldera, Andean condors soar, while dense morning mists envelop the crater, creating a mystical landscape. Manuel Antonio National Park. One of Costa Rica's smallest reserves protects 1,983 hectares, or 4,900 acres, where tropical forest meets white sand beaches on the Pacific. Sloths move slowly among branches, while squirrel monkeys jump above tourists who walk on shaded trails. Four hidden beaches are separated by rocky promontories where white-tailed deer emerge from the forest to drink fresh water that flows into the ocean. The park receives over 150,000 visitors annually, despite its reduced dimensions, requiring advanced reservations to protect this fragile ecosystem. Mendoza. The world capital of Malbec grape extends at the foot of the Andes, in an oasis irrigated by canals that transport glacier meltwater. Over 1,200 wineries produce wines in vineyards planted up to 1,500 meters, or 4,900 feet altitude, taking advantage of the thermal variation between day and night. Italian and French immigrants brought the first vines here in the 1800s, adapting European varieties to the dry climate and alluvial soil of the region. During the March harvest, the vineyards come alive with workers, while the wineries open their doors for tastings that extend until sunset. Nazca Lines. In the Peruvian desert, over 300 geoglyphs extend for hundreds of meters, drawing animals, plants, and geometric figures, visible only from above. The Nazca culture created these lines between 500 BC and 500 AD, removing dark stones to reveal light sand underneath. Rain absence has preserved these drawings for 1,500 years, while archaeologists continue discovering new figures using drones and satellite technologies. The main mystery remains how ancient Nazca managed to create such precise and proportioned designs without ever being able to see them from above in their entirety. Chapada Diamantina. Sandstone highlands rise in Bahia State's heart, creating a labyrinth of canyons, caves, and waterfalls in a region as large as Switzerland. Diamond seekers explored these mountains in the 1800s, leaving abandoned villages now covered by thick and dry Brazilian vegetation. Local guides accompany hikers through trails that connect natural pools, where water flows over rocks polished by millions of years of erosion. The region is also rich with waterfalls that transform with seasons, passing from impetuous torrents during summer rains to thin water veils that almost disappear in dry season. Roraima. A sandstone tepui rises 9,219 feet, or 2,810 meters, in the Venezuelan Gran Sabana, with vertical walls that isolate a lost world on its summit. Carnivorous plants and endemic orchids grow on the rocky top, where it rains almost every day, always creating new waterfalls that precipitate into void. The mountain surface, moreover, resembles a lunar landscape, with black rock formations sculpted by wind and quartz crystals that shine under mist. Indigenous people consider this tepui sacred and guide expeditions of multiple days to reach the summit through the only accessible path. Arenal Volcano. A perfect volcanic cone dominates Costa Rica's rainforest, remaining active for 500 years until 2010, when it entered rest phase. Hot springs gush from volcano slopes, heated by underground magma, creating natural pools immersed in tropical jungle. Sloths, toucans, and poison frogs live in the biological reserve surrounding the volcano, while suspended bridges cross forest canopy. Lake Arenal, artificially created in the 70s, provides hydroelectric energy to the country, while kite surfers exploit constant regional winds for sports. Colonia del Sacramento. A 1680 Portuguese colonial city preserves cobblestone streets and low houses facing the Rio de la Plata, an hour by ferry from Buenos Aires. The historic center, UNESCO heritage, maintains 17th century architectures, while historic lighthouses still guide ships today in the world's widest river. Artists and antique dealers have transformed colonial houses into galleries and museums, while bars are often found in small squares shaded by tropical trees with lilac flowers. Sunsets over Rio de la Plata paint red the waters separating Uruguay and Argentina, and are observable from walls surrounding the old city. Cancun and Riviera Maya. A 120-kilometer or 75-mile strip of white sand extends along Mexico's Caribbean coast, built on ancient Mayan settlements, now submerged. Cancun arose from nothing in the 70s as government project to develop tourism, transforming a fishing village into a metropolis of 1 million inhabitants. The Mesoamerican coral reef runs parallel to the coast, protecting beaches and cenotes, which are freshwater pools, sacred to Maya, that open in jungle. There are also Tulum ruins that face the sea, while modern resorts coexist with natural reserves, where we find sea turtles and whale sharks. Baños de Agua Santa. This small thermal city is located at 5,906 feet, or 1,800 meters of altitude, nestled between Andes and the beginning of Amazon forest, at the foot of active Tungurahua volcano. The valley it nestles in is rich with waterfalls that cascade down from the surrounding mountains, while low clouds often embrace the Andean peaks, creating a mystical atmosphere. Colonial houses climb up the slopes, with the historic center streets leading to Baroque churches and traditional markets. The waterfall route, instead, is a scenic 25-kilometer or 15.5-mile road that connects dozens of waterfalls, including the spectacular Devil's Waterfall, 262 feet or 80 meters high. Los Glaciares National Park. The Perito Moreno Glacier advances 2 meters a day towards Lake Argentino, creating incredible spectacles when the ice breaks apart, and producing roars that can be heard for kilometers. This Patagonian ice field feeds 47 glaciers that descend from Andes toward turquoise lakes, surrounded by Antarctic beech forests. There's also Uppsala Glacier that extends for 60 kilometers or 37 miles, while icebergs float in lakes, creating labyrinths navigable only with special boats. Condors and guanacos live in this wild area, where Patagonian wind shapes landscapes that constantly continue changing due to ice corrosive force. Kaieteur Falls. The Pataro River precipitates 741 feet, or 226 meters, in a single drop in Guyana's rainforest, transporting tea-colored waters rich with plant tannins. This waterfall is 5 times higher than Niagara, but remains one of the least visited in the world due to its remote position in Guyane's interior. Poison frogs live only in this region, while cock of the rock, Guyana's national bird, nests in humid rocks behind the waterfall. The only way to visit this place where no roads or villages exist is with small planes that reach a landing strip carved in jungle itself. Coiba National Park. A former penal colony on a 503 square kilometer or 194 square mile island became UNESCO heritage for marine biodiversity surrounding its coasts. Forced isolation lasting 80 years, involuntarily protected ecosystems where endemic species of iguanas, agoutis, and tropical birds live. Intact coral reefs surround the island, while hammerhead sharks, manta rays, and whale sharks swim in waters that were off-limits for decades. Prison cells are now biological research stations, where scientists study one of the Eastern Pacific's last uncontaminated marine ecosystems. Asunción. Paraguay's capital extends along Paraguay River in South America's geographic heart, founded by Spanish conquistadors in 1537. Two million inhabitants speak both Spanish and Guarani, and it's the only South American capital where an indigenous language has national official status. In markets they sell tereré, which is cold tea drunk from gourds, while artists create traditional laces that imitate spider webs. The government palace, moreover, faces the river and still hosts presidential offices, while historic neighborhoods preserve colonial architecture, despite being surrounded by modern skyscrapers. Concluding this visual journey through Latin America, we've moved from the charm of its ancient temples and traditional villages to vibrant cities and wild landscapes, exploring together not only places, but also curiosities that make every corner of this land unique. We hope that the images and stories told have enriched your knowledge and stimulated the desire to personally explore the extraordinary beauty of this fascinating continent.